welcome to Daytime. I'm Cindy Edwards.
I'm Dave Nemeth, and this is a beautiful 1930 Packard. Isn't it not gorgeous or not?
I like this
My
a
first
lot.
car.
What?
Just kidding.
You heard it.
That should have been your line. No.
It should have been my line.
It
You're
is
right.
gorgeous. We're going to tell you more about it and meet the owners in just a little while. This car actually recently went from Tampa all the way to Montreal.
Yeah, wow,
And
what a journey.
We'll tell you why, and we'll tell you about the adventure. And as I said, we'll meet the owners too. But first, let's take a look at some famous cars from history, if you will.
First one up is the 1967 Ford Mustang Shelby GT 500 Fastback. This was in Gone in 60 Seconds, the movie.
Yes, now we're talking about the 1960. We're talking about the Steve McQueen version of Gone in 60 Seconds, not the one Nick Cage did, which was terrible.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Movie Critic. All right, let's take a look at this one from Back to the Future, the 1981 DeLorean DMC-12.
I've always wanted one of those.
I've had a chance to get into a DeLorean.
There's a few of them still around.
There are a
yeah,
few.
Yeah, they're
They
out
just
there.
never took off.
And then Herbie, of course, won everybody's hearts. Herbie, the love bug, and the 1963 Volkswagen Beetle.
Somebody drives one of those that we work with, actually. I see it in our parking garage.
It has the stickers on it, everything,
and
doesn't
I say hi to Herbie every morning when I walk by him.
Well, good morning, Herbie. Nice to have
What
Herbie
are you
around.
doing here,
Maybe
Herbie?
We'll get Herbie here one day. We'll drive it right into the studio.
Sure. Also, of course, who could forget the Dukes of Hazzard 1969 Dodge Charger? Isn't that lovely? The boys used to never open the doors. They just climb in the windows.
Of course.
That's the way Dave gets into his car every morning.
Every morning. I just slide right in.
You're a good old boy.
On the fly. And then from Knight Rider, 1982, the Pontiac Firebird Trans Am. What was its name?
Kit.
Kit, yes, the talking car. There's David. He can't wait to get to his next cheeseburger, so he's crawling outside the... Get it?
Yeah, I got it.
Took a second, didn't it?
No, I got it now.
Sunk in.
Yeah, I got that. Yep, Kit was very smart.
Yes, very smart.
Now, Dave would remember this from 1962, from the Saint, the television show, the Volvo. Whoopsie, Volvo P1. How do I say this? 1800,
Yes.
P1800, the Volvo. Yes, indeed.
And of course, who could forget the Partridge Family 1955 Chevrolet 6700 series bus?
I love the paint job.
That is somewhere these days still, somebody's driving that around or it's on display somewhere. And, over the years, we've talked to just about every member of the Partridge Family, and they all talk about the bus. It was a classic.
I think you have a crush on the women in that show, don't you?
Definitely Lori.
Yes.
Lori.
And I just want to sing when I see that bus. Who can forget this car, the 1972 Ferrari 365 GTS 4. This is from Miami Vice.
That's a cool car.
Crockett and Tubbs used to scoot around Miami in that. Yeah, that's not bad.
That is a really cool car. All right, back to cool cars that are actually here with us.
Yeah, speaking of vehicles, it was a summer adventure Joanne and Brando Pistorius will never forget.
The Tampa couple had a chance to get to the Rotary International Convention in Montreal, and they actually drove the car all the way from Tampa to Montreal.
They wanted to make a real impression with their 1930s era Packard, so they, as Dave just mentioned, drove it from Tampa to Canada.
That's right. The couple wanted to prove that just because something's old doesn't mean they can't count on it. They brought the car in earlier, or they bought the car earlier this year. It has no air conditioning, which must have been a little bit difficult, but still, what a beauty.
Joanne and Brando join us now, and of course, they've got their trusty Packard with them. Wow, good for you. You bought it this year?
Yes, earlier in the year. Actually, Brando selected it for this trip.
Just for the trip.
And this is something you've been doing as a hobby for a long time, restoring old cars.
Basically since I was a teenager.
And this one you're keeping for a while.
This one is definitely part of the family for a while, yes. And we'll obviously enjoy always having old and antique cars in our life because it is different.
How easy is it to find a vehicle like this? Do you just go on Google and say, I'd like a Packard, please? Where can I pick it up?
No, and unfortunately it doesn't work as simple as that, but if we have contacts and you have word of mouth and with the different advertising, you find stuff.
Let's talk about parts. Now, when we're looking at like the headlights and the wheels and things like that, where do you find parts when you're trying to refurbish a vehicle of this era?
Well, we live in a land of milk and honey when it comes to cars. This is America. You pick up a phone and then you buy the parts. This particular make, there are two companies actually making Packard parts. That's all they do for a living.
Okay.
And then the rest, some of the stuff, if you need to make it, I can fix and I can repair. I have the knowledge of doing it.
Joanne, you drove from Tampa to Montreal in the middle of the summer without air conditioning.
Yes.
Tell us more about that.
That was not a thrill in the beginning, but it got better very quickly. Actually, there's 7 windows to open up. So Florida and Georgia and South Carolina were challenging, but by the time we got to Virginia, it started to cool off. And then after that, it actually was a beautiful, lovely drive.
I'll bet it was.
And you stopped at Rotary clubs all along the way?
All along the way, we would stop at breakfast, lunch, and sometimes dinner. And every day for the first, it took us 5 days to get up. And along the way, we actually were only going to go there and straight back, pick up maybe the auto train and come home in about 1,500 miles in a week. But then we met up in halfway with the president of the Antique Automobile Club of America, who asked us to extend our trip. And then we ended up going 4,000 miles in 23 days just so we could attend their convention.
Twisted your arm a bit.
A little.
I'm
It was
sure
fun.
you were hit, and I'm sure going down the road
There you
were
are.
hit. Did you get tired of waving at people? Because you know everybody's going to
don't.
honk and wave at you.
No, you don't. They always have questions for Brando. I mean, he can talk about a car forever. He does all his own work, so we actually really enjoyed it.
Now, in what condition was the car in when you bought it?
It was in a fairly good condition.
It was.
But you know, it wasn't been running for the last 6 years, so that made it that you have to do something to the car.
Can we look at the power plant? It's right here. Is that,
Yes,
how
we
hard
can.
would that be if we just move,
That
slide
will-
over this way a little
that
bit?
will
Maybe
be very
camera 4
quickly.
can pick up, or camera
How
5.
about mileage? Like, how
It gets-
far do you get on a full tank of gas?
It gets about 9 miles to the gallon, so if you have to ask, you can't go on the trip. So.
How much does it cost to fill?
Wow,
Oh,
look at that.
golly. You know, we really didn't want to keep thinking about that too much because you have to stop so often. It really was an expensive gas trip. We watched every gas stop. We have a lot of pictures on our blog about thumbs up on good states, and some states are far different.
So that's a straight block 8-cylinder,
Yes,
Right.
106 horsepower.
106 horsepower.
106, and for those days it was almost double up on any other car.
So
Wow.
this was the Speedy Gonzales of its
This
time.
was the car where they can go there and get there.
And you said Al Capone used to drive cars like this so he could get away from the cops.
That's it.
Correct.
How fast can you get going on this?
Well, this one you can do most probably about 70 miles an hour, but I would say 60, 65 is a nice cruising speed.
I'm wondering about seatbelts. I mean, it's
No.
it's
There's no
illegal to
seatbelts.
drive without seatbelts.
No.
It's grandfathered in, so because you are, you know, have an old car, you don't, nobody can force you to put seatbelts in. You can do, but it's not required.
Good, good.
Any other trips down the line for you, down the road,
We
so to
always have
speak?
trips. We actually we did over 20,000 miles last year, and so we go to a lot of car shows. We see a lot of cars, so we have a lot of trips. Next year we'll also go to the Rotary International Convention, which is in New Orleans.
Okay.
And we have an Antique, Classic, and Historic Automobile Fellowship of Rotarians, which is an international fellowship. So we have people coming from California and New York and all over and bringing their classic cars. We kind of blazed the trail. It was the first year for the North American chapter, so we wanted to let people know you can use your old cars, and then hopefully more people will join in next year.
Finally, what did you learn about our country with this trip that you took?
That there are still absolutely wonderful people out there. People that will, on a Sunday morning, forget about reading his newspaper and go and help me and drive me for many miles to get the right part.
Oh, that's wonderful. Good.
It is spectacular. It is absolutely beautiful. We wish you the best of luck, and we really appreciate you bringing it into our
Thank you for
daytime
having us.
studios today. It's a beautiful, beautiful piece of work.
Thank you.
Joanne and Brando Pistorius, honk if you see them, and thanks for
right.
bringing
They
in
don't
your
mind.
car. All right, Sam also has a nice car. It's a little newer. He's from Star Watch, and he's standing by with the latest on the new Hilary Swank movie.
Hilary Swank and Hollywood's reigning